with me right now is the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour, the only Z-man that actually matters and has ever been over and relevant, Mr. Brian Zane. Brian, thanks so much for being in the program.
Well, thanks so much. Not to take anything away from the people you mentioned and reference and all that, so not to take anything away from Billy Graham or Dusty Rhodes or Tom Zank, but I am happy to be here, so thank you so much.
No problem. Now, most people will probably know you from Wrestling with Regret, which is a great program. I actually discovered you through Adam Blampier, that damn limey bastard. But that's
the nicest thing people have said about him in a long time.
That is scary. I think him being the heel character is actually it makes him more interesting. But
yeah, well, I think it's perfect because it's a reflection of, I think, what a lot of people perceive him as online. So I think it's art imitating life, and it's actually working really well for him.
Yeah, hey, whatever you can make it. You know, if I have to dress in a wig and a dress to get people to watch my channel, I'm fine with that too. But I should write that down.
I'll hold you to that.
Okay, then just go back and view some of my old videos, and so I've already been held to it. Now, like I said, people know you for Wrestling with Regret, but you're also a manager. You also manage wrestlers. But you started off as an actual in-ring talent. We won't talk about the very first match because that never happened.
Right.
Yeah, but what now? When you went in, obviously everybody has their aspirations and they go in wanting to be a wrestler. At what point did you realize that it's time to don the sweatsuits and be little Jimmy?
I don't know. I wrestled for a year. I say I wrestled for a year, but really I think I've wrestled maybe 20 matches, and that's not more than me. It's not enough though, Like I don't try and make myself out to be like this hardened wrestling veteran before I got into managing and stuff. It's just I have like you said, I have 20 matches under my belt, which is 20 more than a lot of people will say they had, and they were never particularly good, and there's a lot of things I wish I had done differently as a wrestler. I wish I had applied myself more in the ring. I wish I had gotten in better shape. I wish, there's a lot of what ifs that I do live with now. You might say I have some regrets about my wrestling career. It's just, there's things that I wish were different, but I don't look back and say, well, there's part of me that does wish I still wrestled to some degree, but at the same time, I'm glad I made the switch because I'm not beating myself up every weekend. I'm not missing time with family and friends. So the trade-off when you become a manager is that you immediately disqualify yourself from a lot of bookings because not every indie promoter is going to want a manager. There's not as many positions open for managers as there are for wrestlers. And so if you're the booker of a show and you have a best friend or someone who's already in the Fed as a manager, or you are also the manager as well as the booker, it makes it very tough to get into anyone else to get into those kind of gigs. But yeah, I mean, as far as when I made the decision to switch over to manager, the decision was almost kind of made for me because at the time I was wrestling for a year and I wasn't very good and I wasn't getting any better. And I was getting put in these like battle royals and tag matches, and I was never like the highlight of them. And it was never like, and I never just like it. And that's not the most important thing, but it was like it was a whole thing where I just felt like I'd plateaued and I couldn't get to a point where I looked good in the ring. So, but the promoter I was working for at the time in Oregon, he saw my potential as a manager because he saw some promos that I had cut and that I put on my personal YouTube channel. And so he knew that I couldn't work, but I could talk. And so that I knew enough about wrestling and how match psychology works that me being a manager would have been a good trade, and that's what happened. So yeah, literally a year to the week after I debuted as a wrestler, I became a manager, and I did that. I've been doing that ever since. So for about almost 10 years now, I've been managing on and off in different states, and it's been a lot of fun.
Do you think that, and I'm sorry for everybody watching the phone ringing, it's not my fault. I can't get up and get it, so you're going to have to suffer. Like, okay, there we go. They just hung up. My question for that is, like, do you think that that's what you need to succeed in the business? I mean, you can have your in-ring talent, but I mean, to be able to cut a promo, especially now with TV and them having to hit quarter hours and all this other kind of stuff, you have to do something entertaining, and you can't throw yourself off of a cage every half an hour, 45 minutes. So you got to be able to cut those entertaining promos, and you got to have some kind of ring psychology.
Right.
So yeah, exactly. So I mean, do you think that is more important in succeeding in the business than in-ring talent to a degree?
Well, yes, I think that success in wrestling and success in getting over in wrestling is 70% personality and look and 30% actual in-ring ability. I think history has shown us that.
Enzo Amore. Oh, go on.
Right.
Yeah.
You can have $1 million body, and it's like there's variables, and there's exceptions to every rule. Rarely is there anyone who's been like has an amazing look, had an amazing in-ring talent, and is an amazing talker. If you have all three of those, or if you have two of the three, I think you have a leg up over a lot of people. Talking is a huge thing. It's always been a huge thing in professional wrestling, and now especially so it is, because in this, at the risk of sounding like a crotchety old man, in the world we live in today with kids and their technology bots, it's tough to have. It's tough to keep attention, hold your attention for something, for anything. So when you have someone who can talk really well, if you can talk people into an arena, that's a lot more effective than wrestling someone into an arena. More people are going to retain the memories you make as a character than the memories you make in the ring, by and large. I think you could point out a lot more. Yeah, you can, like Enzo Amore. You could pick out a lot more memorable Enzo promos than you can Enzo matches.
Yeah.
And I think time might help make that more balanced over time. But yeah, exactly. Enzo is an amazing promo guy, and he's got a very unique look. And so when people see him and people hear him, then he is an attention grabber. But yeah, exactly. It's all about presentation. And with wrestling, you can be the best wrestler in the world, but if you don't have any presence, if you don't have any charisma as a showman, then you can only go so far.
And I would argue that I don't really remember anybody who has all three. I mean, I know that there are people who come very, very close, like Punk, Jericho.
The Rock is probably the best example of the modern era.
Yeah, but he's not even that great in the ring. He's more of he's more of a modern day Hogan, and when it comes to in-ring ability, I think. Not that that's a knock on him, but I mean, he gets over with his personality and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, so I mean, as far as someone who had a Herculean physique and also could talk and wrestle really well, I don't know. Like Dusty Rhodes, he could wrestle anybody, and he looked like a schlub. And but he also had an amazing way with words and an amazing way to connect with fans. And that's really what it's all about, connecting with the fans. I say being able to talk is a big positive, and it is. But at the same time, you can be a tremendous talker and say things really well. But if you're saying things that don't make sense outside of the wrestling bubble or don't connect with fans, that's also a big thing. It's all about that connection. It's all about if you're a wrestler and you're in the ring, one of the most important things I was taught is eye contact. Eye contact with the fans. Make the fans feel like they're part of it. It's not a passive experience when you're a wrestling fan. So if you've got the audience connecting with you on some level, whether it's you're speaking out, like Dusty Rhodes, the Hard Times promo, it's I'm going to hold my hand out and you're going to reach out with me. That's it's such a easy example, but that's one big one. It's it's all about connecting with the fans. And so, the caveat to, you have to be able to talk well, it's you have to be able to say things and do things that resonate with people.
Yeah, I think one of the best heel moments I've seen in a long time, there's two of them and they both go to Punk, is the singing Happy Birthday to Ray's daughter was the creepiest thing I had seen in a long time, and I was around for Katie Vick. And then
that wasn't creepy, that was just gross.
Yeah, and then when he came out dressed up like Jeff Hardy after he beat him for the loser leaves the company thing, and the kids were so pumped up, they hear Jeff Hardy's music, and then it's him. And that's when I was always a Punk fan, but when he did that, I was like, this guy, he's wow.
Well, he gets it, I think it's human psychology, and that's really what it boils down to. They always say Baron Corbin is a master's in psychology. I've yet to see him actually use that to his advantage, but it's something to think about. If you've got an understanding of how people work, and how the common man works, the average person. It's like that's why Dusty Rhodes and Steve Austin, were able to resonate so well with fans, because they represented like the everyman in a way. In a way they were still like light years ahead of what the actual everyman was in many respects, but their characters and the way they connected with fans played a huge role in their success.
Oh, definitely. And what I love about Dusty is the fact that no matter, Vince gave him polka dots and he made it work. And that just proves how amazing he is as a creative mind. And right. Speaking of creative minds, I know you've already put out your Elimination Chamber review video. I haven't had a chance to watch it because I've been preparing for this. As you can tell, I'm just so prepared. In a few words, what do you think of the Bray Wyatt as champion? I think it's about time.
I think it's a long time coming. I think it's something that needed to happen, I'd say a couple of years ago, really. I think it's, like I said in my review, it's kind of the culmination of what has really been a very subtle, quiet build-up for him over the last, 6 or 8 months, ever since the brand split happened. He's been quietly put into this kind of, position to be a main event guy. And it's always been happening in the background while you had John Cena and AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose going on, but now with that kind of stuff subsiding, and then you have Randy Orton winning the Rumble, and then it opens this up for Wyatt to win the championship. I think it makes sense to me. Is this going to be the most amazing Mania match we've ever seen? Probably not, but I think it's something for someone who's very deserving of it. And I hate to, at the same time, I hate to say that so-and-so should be a champion because they deserve it. I hate to use the championship as a lifetime achievement award, or as, a gold medal or a blue ribbon that you just earn after a while after you collect enough, karma, Right. That's not how wrestling works always. But for someone who's, for as much as he's been through, over the last couple of years especially, I think it's a good piece of redemption, personal redemption. And I think that, if they let him run with it, then Bray Wyatt as champion could be a very interesting, captivating thing. I mean, we're only less than 24 hours into the Wyatt era, so who really knows what's going to happen and how far it's going to go. If it's going to go beyond Mania, if we'll ever see how long we'll see him in the main event after WrestleMania, or after he loses the championship, whenever that may be. But I think it's something that is good. It's good to have some variety in champions. I think it's so to branch out from the the combo breaker, Styles, Cena, and then have someone out of left field like Bray Wyatt, and not out of left field as in unexpected, because I think a lot of people saw the writing on the wall after the Rumble. Yeah. But to have someone who is like Bray Wyatt, who is unlike a wrestler you've seen before, to be in that position, I think is a good thing.
Now, I want your opinion on something, and then I want to talk to you a little bit about your channel and everything, and then we'll get to some Twitter questions that people have submitted. Goldberg and Owens at Fastlane, which I'm going to say is in my close to my hometown, but I still can't go. It's like, well, who's Joe going to have on the card? So why bother? That's my theory on that. But Goldberg is notorious for blowing up 5 minutes into a match, 6 minutes into a match. How is he going to be able to outlast someone like Kevin Owens, who, while he doesn't look like the prototypical professional wrestler, can still go forever and is a really, really talented individual?
He's not.
He's not?
That's the thing. No, because I think everyone... ever since Goldberg's come back, people expect him to be in these long matches, and he's just not built for it. He never really was.
I thought you were saying Kevin wasn't a talented guy.
No. I agree with you, Kevin's a talented guy, but the first part of your question, how is Goldberg going to...
he won't be able to, yeah.
Right, that was the answer to that question.
Okay.
I think that, it's like everyone has these delusions of grandeur that, when Goldberg and Lesnar fought Survivor Series, everyone thought it was going to be this, match on level of what they had at 20, where it was, and I actually just rewatched that match recently because I'm trying to compile data for worst Mania matches ever. Spoiler alert, that match is on the list. And so it's just, looking back at that, I think that what they did with him and Lesnar at Survivor Series was a drastic improvement. It was much more in the style of a Goldberg match, in his prime. Right. And now what we're seeing with Goldberg is these very short outbursts of Goldberg, and I don't know how much that has to do with just we're writing around him because of his ability level or his age or his stamina. Who really knows? But I think that what they're doing with him, it works. I don't think you can keep doing that, but I just don't. I don't think that his match with Owens is going to be any more competitive. Maybe it'll go 3 minutes. I don't think it's going to go Lesnar, Goldberg at Survivor Series. It's not going to be that short, but it will still not be. It's not going to be on the level of like Owens and Reigns or Owens and Rollins, because it's apples and oranges, apples and pomegranates. Really, you can't compare the two types of matchups, and so I do think Goldberg is going to win, or at the very least, something's going to happen very early on that makes Owens retain the belt in some shady way. But it's
Lesnar. Sorry, I got a horrible face called.
Something is going to happen, and it's gonna be a short match. No matter who wins, it's gonna be short, and that's how they do Goldberg now.
Yeah, and I don't even. The more I think about that card, the less I think about anything decent coming out of it. That they're going to have to be able to stretch to make time on for the pay-per-view. I mean, how long can you really have Roman Reigns versus Braun? Personality versus personality.
And at this point, Samoa Joe's going to wrestle an imaginary bear. I don't know what they're going to do with him.
As long as he doesn't wrestle a blow-up doll or a 9-year-old girl, we're okay.
Yeah, that'll make somebody happy if that doesn't happen.
And you know what? Before I heard that, before he lost his mind over it, when I saw it online, I was like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" And I haven't been a fan of his since. It just bothered me.
Comedy wrestling is super subjective, and it's my little guilty pleasure. I don't think every match should be a comedy match on a show. I think there needs to be a balance, and I think, I don't think that it's weird. I think wrestling a blow up doll is about as crazy as you can get in wrestling as far as comedy stuff. I think you can have little mini skits in comedy matches. I don't think Colt Cabana's ever wrestled a blow-up doll, and he's, I think, one of the better comedy wrestlers out there. But Colt can still actually work, and Omega can obviously still work too. So, but when you have these, it's just one of those tricky balances. What is wrestling? Who are you trying to sell wrestling to? Who are you trying to pop here? Are you trying to pop the fans, or are you trying to pop the workers? I think if you try and spend more time trying to entertain the boys, then the product suffers. And to me, doing stuff like blow-up doll matches, to me, that's something that pops the boys more. Yeah. I don't see the long-term appeal in that kind of stuff.
I got a lot of crap on Twitter because I questioned Meltzer's decision about Omega and Okada. And I thought that Dunn and Bate at the UK finals was a far better match. Maybe because I knew the story behind it better. I was more invested in what happened. But that tournament right there is just proof positive that Hunter needs to take over from old man XFL.
Well, I think what the tournament showed me is that when WWE wants to focus on just wrestling, when they shy away from the sketches and the very, very poorly written tie-ins for commercials, when they just want to focus on wrestling, they can do it better than almost anybody else. And I think a lot of it has to do with their production value, because their production value they've invested so much in that. It's top of the line. No other wrestling organization can touch it, short for maybe New Japan. Right. But even then, New Japan has still kind of a very antiquated aesthetic style in terms of how they shoot wrestling. It's not the same as what WWE does. And WWE still has, and forgive me, this is a speech impediment I have, or some kind of affectation where I can't say WWE in conversation and make it, it goes in and out. But, they still have their quirks, with Kevin Dunn doing the whole thing with the snap zooms and the up and down and stuff. That's still a problem, but but you notice that stuff kind of took a back seat for the UK tournament. When they focus on just wrestling and just kind of go back to basics with their production value and when they shoot wrestling, I think it can be the best thing ever. Right. It looks really good. So I get what you're saying about Dunn and Bate. I can hear your argument for it being a better match than Okada Omega. I think the Okada Omega match, it's all about what your expectations are. With me, I have no expectations when I watch New Japan, except that it's going to be good stuff. Because I don't really follow the product, but I just know that these two workers are very good at what they do, and I don't follow the storylines or anything, so it's like my body is ready. I'm kind of like I have no expectations for good or bad what's going to happen.
Right.
So that being said, it's like if I went into Elimination Chamber blind, last night, if I hadn't watched Raw or SmackDown for the last year, and I watched Nikki Bella and Natalya have like a pretty good match, except for the shit finish, I probably would have been like, oh, okay, I was like, it was a good match except for the finish, like, and I would have had no expectations going into that match, especially, and I would have had no thoughts about how trashy their current storyline is,
Yeah.
I'm kind of rambling a bit here, but I do think
it all
that
makes sense. It all makes sense.
I think as far as like arguing was Okada Omega really a 6-star match? I mean, it's Meltzer's rating, so it's really in the eye of the beholder. But I do think that match really told a good story. Do I think it was 6 stars? I don't know. Maybe it's like what makes a 6-star match? What makes a 5-star match? So
you're kind of ruining your 5-star like rating system by making something a 6-star match.
Well, in fairness, Meltzer's only done it one time before, and that was like 20 years ago. So it's not like he's throwing 6-star ratings about like candy.
I went back and watched SD Jones versus Big John Studd, and oh my god, it's a 7-star match.
Right. I think if he starts pulling out 7 stars, then I think we should be nervous.
Just a little bit. Now, I got one more quick question for you. Then we'll get to talk about the channel, and then we'll get to the Twitter questions. Someone who is in the know is very knowledgeable like yourself. Am I wrong in thinking that the most over wrestler right now is Broken Matt Hardy?
You're not wrong in saying that. I think Broken Matt, who I got to meet late last year, I got to interview him.
How scared were you? Because he seems to stay in character all the time.
He's a scary man. I think a lot of it has to do with the teeth. They're very white and perfect, and like when you take a look at that and then the whole package, like, oh my god, it's a very intimidating sight. But Matt Hardy's been able to reinvent himself and really just change the way I think wrestlers can control their own destinies now. I think Matt Hardy would never at this point go to WWE because he would not be able to have full creative control. Right. like what I'm pretty sure is what's going on in Impact. So it's but I think he's definitely gotten over, and it first started out kind of like, what the hell is this? Like, it started out very cringeworthy at the beginning, but like it took on this life of its own with its own world building and side characters and little nods to different things going on in the Hardy's career, and it just took on this life of its own, and it got so damn popular and so over. And I couldn't help letting myself get swept up in it too. I watched, Final Deletion, Deleted Decay, Total Nonstop Deletion, The Great War. I watched all that stuff. It was great. It made, when I watched it, it made wrestling fun to me again. Because if you can make wrestling unpredictable and like entertaining, but still like actually kind of have real actual wrestling in there too. Right. If you can have characters that are like compelling, then I think you have a lot more carte blanche to do whatever you want. Essentially, I think Matt Hardy has kind of unlocked the key to that rule, and I think he's really running with it. And it's great.
He actually has me looking forward to Impact every week, which is something I can't believe I'm ever saying.
He's done what Hulk Hogan and Kurt Angle and a bunch of other people could not do, and that was make Impact Wrestling an appointment television.
And I want to see.
So God bless him.
I can't wait to see the Hardys versus Super Crazy and Psychosis. I'm like, I want to see what happens. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I follow his wife on Snapchat because I'm a creeper, and and they were going through a Taco Bell drive-thru, and sure as shit, there were people taking pictures of him, and he had to pop right back into character. And he has to pull it out at any given moment, which is ridiculous. But
he seems to be very tired, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think
it's been a gift and a curse.
Was it you that said that Maxwell is the most tame 1-year-old on the planet?
Yes,
it was. Yes. When you watch, you gotta. I don't know if you use Snapchat at all, but you gotta follow his wife because it's not total nonstop Maxwell, and he is the most. He never screams. He never cries. He's very. I wonder if they got him doped up or something. I mean, that's.
I don't know.
He does hold a victory over Rockstar Spud, though. Let's not forget that. So let's be careful. We don't want to upset him. Right. Now, Wrestling with Regret. You've how many episodes has it been now?
Well, as far as actual number of videos, it's been almost 370 videos. Like, if you want to talk about episodic things on my seasons, which are very arbitrarily defined, it's been almost 130, which
still
is
still nothing to scoff at.
Right, and but total videos in all, when you consider my big, like, lengthy, long form reviews, my pay-per-view reviews, my kayfabe kitchens, my getting into the biz, it's like, yeah, it's pushing 400 videos, which I never thought would ever happen.
Now, when you first started it, I'm not going to ask, well, did you think it was going to get this big? Because I hate that question so much. No, of course he didn't. But when you first started it, what was the point behind it? Was it just a release for you, or?
Yeah, well, I felt like when I was first starting up with the show, and the idea really had kicked around in my head for a long time, for a year before I finally started it, but I felt I was kind of filling a need, because I've said before in interviews and on my own channel that I'm a huge fan of, like, the Nostalgia Critic and Phaelus and Todd in the Shadows and people like that.
Angry Video Game Nerd.
Yeah, although I think even his format's a little different than theirs in some ways, but yeah, but I think that whole genre of angry, or not even angry all the time, or just kind of someone, just a nerdy guy who, like, has rants and, like, points to make about, like, a certain genre, a certain medium. Like, but as I was watching these channels, you've got guys like, Nostalgia Critic, who covers movies primarily, right, and you've got, people who cover horror movies and anime and comic books and pop music and, all sorts of different medium out there. And as I was looking around at the time, this was 2011, 2012, when I first started noticing it, there's no one for wrestling. There was nothing like this for professional wrestling. There were plenty of people on YouTube who talked about wrestling, but it was always just like, very low production. There was no, like, script to it. It was just like ranting about whatever they saw on Raw that night. And so I felt like it was kind of doing a disservice to the medium. It's like, how come there's no Nostalgia Critic for wrestling? That's kind of what I basically set out to do. I wanted to make a Nostalgia Critic for wrestling, but I wanted to, and I have no problem basically saying that it's the whole format's a giant ripoff of the Nostalgia Critic. I'm sorry to dissolve anyone's illusion about that, but that's what it is. But it was just something I wanted to do. But like I said, I thought about it for a long time before I finally pulled the trigger. Like, well, how can I make this work? What do I need to do to get the ball rolling on it? So eventually I got all the equipment that I needed, like my shitty $80 camera that, like, I was using all the way up until, like, early last year, and then basically, and I've had experience with writing in the past. I was, I did the wrestling stuff for a long time. I was in theater before that growing up, so it's like I had the performance ability down, and I always fancied myself as kind of a creative writer. So I basically finally said, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write out some stuff for, like, some topics and see where it goes. And so, like, originally, I started just kind of putting out videos, like, once a week, and I did it for, like, a few months, then I stopped. I did it for a few more months, and I stopped again. And then, like, over time, I was developing kind of an audience. And so, yeah, it's like eventually, or initially, I should say, Wrestling with Regret was just something for me.
Right.
Or to get a pop out of them, like, just because Lord knows it wasn't getting many views at the time. Like, and no channel really ever starts out with a huge fan base or huge following, but that's kind of like how it was. It was just something for me and my friends, and then it just kind of blew up from there. And that was all about almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
Well, now that it has blown up, I have to ask the promoter question. Does it draw money? When you are listed as being on the card, do people come out because of your YouTube channel?
That's funny, because I feel ever since the channel got big, I've had less and less bookings.
We don't want some YouTube star standing at ringside.
Like, it's weird, it's like, I did think initially, like, well, hey, if this picks up, maybe I'll get more bookings, and, like, that's really not resulted in any of that. Like I said, it's hard to get booked as a manager in wrestling, and especially for me in my situation, I have a family, I have a wife and 2 kids. I don't really want to go traveling the country, or even outside of my own state all that often to work for these shows and make no money. So I have to be so now, and I'm old enough now. I've been doing this for a long enough time now in wrestling to decide, you know what, I'm going to get a little more picky in the shows I choose to work for. I don't want to work for free anymore. I want to be there and have it mean something. And so, yeah, I don't want to do free tryout matches anymore. Like, I've been doing this I've been in the business, for 10 years. Like, I think I've earned enough karma to
get a paycheck.
Don't make me work for free anymore, even if it's just something to cover my gas. So, yeah, so I think it's a combination of there's not a lot of demand for managers out there. I don't feel like I want to get back in the ring anytime soon. I still lack the drive to get really in shape and just jacked and start taking bumps again. That's no fun. It's a job in and of itself. And so, yeah, it is very, it is a very select thing. I have very few opportunities to actually get work. But when I do, every time the shows I have gone to lately, I have been surprised at the number of fans who have come to me and told me they know the show, which is great. So I've yet to been advertised. I think I worked one show in Reno. It was Hood Slam, which I've talked about on my show in the past. I've been advertised because I was the MC for that night. I was doing live commentary. They said, from Wrestling with Regret, Brian Zane's going to be there. And, when I'm a manager, I kind of downplay the Wrestling with Regret thing because really the focus should be on me.
Right.
It should be on the people I manage. So yeah, this has not resulted in a shower of more bookings and exposure. It's not like I worked, Lucha Underground, all of a sudden now I'm a name. I'm a guy with a YouTube show, and as big a following as it is, there's still tons of people out there who've never heard of me. So it's not like something that's gonna draw,
Well, if you went to Lucha Underground, they'd change your name to Brian Mundo, or something. Yeah, right. I don't know, something ridiculous. But let's get to the YouTube questions here, because I know you're a very busy man. First, we'll go with the longer form question here, because one of them is a yes or no question. I think you saw it. Rickus05 would like to know, what's the best thing the WWE can do about the hashtag Seth freaking Rollins injury, assuming the best and worst cases?
Yeah, I thought about that question last night when I saw it. What could they do? I think as much as it would suck, I almost think that Seth shouldn't wrestle at Mania. Even if he is able to come back, I think 8 weeks is really pushing it. That's the timetable I kept hearing was 8 weeks. He'll be back in 8 weeks. Okay, then what? Then how? How much will he be able to go? He's not going to be able to wrestle his Ring of Honor self, after having to come up 8 weeks after an MCL tear. I just don't think it's possible. So either we're going to be deprived of the 4 to 5 star match or 3 to 4 star match with Triple H that on paper we were expecting at Mania, because we're not going to get that, I don't think, because he won't be able to go that speed, or he's going to try to do it, he's going to hurt himself again. I don't know. I admire the hell out of his drive and his dedication to get back in time, but I think it's so tough because the timing is so crap. And you want to see this payoff happen, and I don't want to wait till SummerSlam. I want this thing to end. I want this to have a blow off, but I don't know. I think the worst case scenario is he doesn't work Mania, and I think that's also the safest bet, just for his safety and for the integrity of the match that we expect to see. But then, yeah, what do you do? How do you? I think that if he can't work Mania, then don't have Triple H at Mania either, because you've got enough nostalgia covered at that show. You've got Lesnar, you got Goldberg, you got Undertaker, you've got Cena there. He's kind of on that border. So it's I think you don't need Triple H if Seth Rollins isn't going to be there. And I think we're not going to find out what's going to happen until Fastlane. Like I said, I think Fastlane is kind of the deadline. That's when we'll know more of are they really going to go through with this Rollins thing? And even so, it's how. I think the biggest question is what Seth Rollins are we going to see at Mania, assuming his prognosis is correct and he does heal up in time for Mania? What's going to happen?
Do you think that maybe on an off level that this is just a work and it's the greatest work ever?
No. I think that if this were a work that we would have found out by now. I think that's something that pissed me off when I first heard of the injury, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's a work. Oh, look how Samoa Joe's tweeting about it. It's got to be a work." I'm like, well, first of all, if Samoa Joe was, I don't think he's gonna come out and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I fucked up the main event for Mania. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ruined Seth Rollins." Like, he wouldn't say that anyway. So I've touched on this before on my show. It pisses me off so much to see fans who just refuse to be conned. They refuse to put themselves in a position to believe anymore. Where it's like, okay, we learned a while ago that wrestling was not real and we've never been able to live it down. So now we cannot allow ourselves to ever believe anything wrestling tells us ever again. So if someone gets suspended, or if someone gets released, or someone gets injured, the natural default reaction a lot of fans have is, oh, it's a work, oh, it's a storyline, it's going to build to something. Even if it makes no logical sense for that suspension or for that release to lead into a storyline payoff. Like, that's never happened in the history of ever,
Right.
So this injury, I mean, for people to say it's a work, I mean, yeah, unless Seth Rollins is in a wheelchair at Fastlane that stands up and does like 300 Hindu squats in the middle of the ring, then I'll say, okay, you got me. It's a work. But I just think the timing of it would be the worst timing ever to have this thing be a work. And I just don't buy it. I don't buy the argument that it's a work. I think this is real, and people just don't want to believe it because the timing is so bad.
Okay, now here an addendum to that question. Do you think we'll have Balor back by Mania?
I don't even know, because I forget what people were saying when he got surgery, expected. So people want Balor back at the Rumble. I'm like, that ain't happening. So will it happen at Mania? It might, but then where are they going to put him? What match makes sense?
I can see him I can see him coming back the night after Mania.
Yeah, and I think people were pissed that Samoa Joe didn't debut at the Rumble, but then he came at the night after and people were cool with it. I think that's I think people will. Balor will probably come back the night after. That makes the most sense to me. If anything, maybe he wrestles Samoa Joe at Mania. I don't know, but that's still kind of a stretch. You got to do some world building. You got to explain why. People just want Balor and Joe, and people just want Balor and Taker, but no one wants to do the legwork and explain why they're fighting, or if they do provide a very loose skeleton as to why, but really it's more fan service than anything actually based in logic or reason.
Right.
Balor wants to fight the Undertaker because he wants to be the new Demon. Yeah, because their gimmicks are so similar, and we're gonna have the real passing of the torch. Finn Balor's 34 years old. I think the torch, it's he's not the one to have the torch passed to.
No, not at all. Not at all. I can see him. This is my scenario. Obviously, I don't write for WWE, and I've never done anything creative with wrestling in my life. But I can see Owens Jericho at Mania, and I can see Owens going over Jericho through nefarious means, and then the next night on Raw, he runs his mouth like a typical heel, saying that nobody can beat me, I'm the best Universal Champion ever, blah, blah, blah. And lights go out comes Finn Balor. He wants the belt back, right. He never lost.
That actually makes the most sense. So it's but people don't want that. People want the big fantasy. They want the Balor Taker because they're never going to get Balor Sting, and they want some hackneyed replacement.
Everybody wants Sting and Undertaker until they get it.
Right, they're not going to get They're not going to get Starrcade 97 Sting versus Ministry Undertaker. That's not happening. I'm sorry, that ship has sailed.
Yes, final question here is from Justin Smith at JSmith757. He asks, "Have you ever tried to get a writing job at WWE?"
No, I haven't. I think once on a whim. I went on a corporate site and it's creative writer. I don't even know if I actually technically qualify. Maybe now that I have this channel under my belt, I could maybe qualify for a writing gig, because the whole thing is, you have to have their application says you have to have like this many years experience writing for television. Like, and I've worked in TV news for several years before I pursued this show full time, but that's not writing for TV. It's like it's writing for TV news, which is a totally different beast than writing for like, you know, for writing for dramas or comedies or whatever. It's the same thing. But even if I were qualified now to apply, I don't think I would do it because I hear the horror stories and it sounds like the dream job, you know. But it's like, honestly, whoever would be more qualified to apply for a job like that would be like Adam Blampier, because you know, people always say, you should go in creative, you know, because like you and Adam should both go in creative. Adam is far more qualified for the job because he actually takes time to come up with alternatives, and he actually does rebookings and stuff. And here's how I would book this thing. And like, I don't do any of that. I deconstruct. I tear things apart. I never have. Rarely, if ever, do I have like, here's how it should go, because I don't feel like I'm any more qualified to. You know, I can say something sucks because you can look at it through a lens and say, yeah, it sucks, but I don't want to put myself in a position where I say, I know the way it should go. Like, but you look at Mick Foley's son. Right. You look at what he did to get a job in WWE. A lot has to do with the fact that he's a Foley, but also if you look at how he handled it before getting a writing gig, was like he had like a journal, like a live journal or a blog where like he spent a year at least writing shows like in his head and like writing it out. Like that's what you have to do to become a writer, you know, if anything. You know, if you're not going to be able to get a Hollywood gig, you know, you have to like, you know, do fantasy booking for a long time and apply yourself to it and like and create this world. And honestly, like, as fun as it sounds, I just don't feel like I have the drive right now to do that. Like, I'm so focused on my own show, I can't even fathom breaking away from that to think about like fantasy booking, you know. It's like, that's the thing. I think the biggest fallacy with fantasy booking is like no one ever takes into account like money, ego, or injury, and those three things are so prevalent from all aspects of the whole creative process that I could never in a million years like book a real show, much less like book a fake show in my head, assuming there were no limitations. And it's like so I always try and like kind of keep it grounded in that. So I don't think I would be the best writing person in the world. If I were given the opportunity, like if they said, hey, like give us some writing examples, then yeah, like right. I would try. But I don't think I would actively apply for it at this point, just because of my life standing now, and I like what I'm doing. So, yeah, I don't think writing for WWE is for me. Like, I want to get a gig like Sam Roberts, you know. Like, I want to get the gig where I get the pre-show panel, you know.
You want to be Pete Rosenberg.
Gig. Right. I think that they have the coolest side gig right now because, like, they're doing their things and they got noticed by, you know, the right people. They have the right agents, and now they're doing this thing with WWE. I want to get that in, you know, like right. I want to try and get that gig. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but it'd be pretty sweet if it did. And then, if I could get that far, then like that's it for me. Or if I could like get a consulting gig like Max Landis, then that would be the ultimate.
Right.
Like,
right.
I don't want to do it.
No, I hear you. All right, well, Brian, I want to tell. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I do want to tell everybody where they can follow you on Twitter at ZMan Brian Zane, and then it's
ZMan Brian Zane,
and then it's YouTube.com/Wrestling with Regret with a W in front of the regret, or just look for Wrestling with Regret.
Yeah, look for. I would just look for it because really the URL is youtube.com/C/Wrestling with Regret. I don't know why it's like that. Anyway, so yeah, and then the Facebook page is also Wrestling with Regret. And I do want to plug this special thing I'm working on for WrestleMania weekend. It's the Internet Darlings Live happening Saturday, April 1st. I gotta get that out. Tickets to sell, Ron. I got butts to
peddle your wares, sir.
Butts to put in seats. Right. So
it's you.
Internet Darlings Live is.
It's you, Blampier. And
it's me and a bunch of different YouTube people. Yeah, it's the first of its kind. It's a big gathering of some of the biggest wrestling YouTube personalities under one roof. So it's be me, Blampier from What Culture, Grim from Grimm's Toy Show, Matthew, who's the curator of Botchamania, Stephen Larson from the Raw podcast, JD from New York, who does Off the Script, and Joe Cronin, who works with JD, and he has his own thing called Out of Nowhere. And we are all going to be having a panel discussion. We're going to do some sketches, some fan Q&A. We're going to be talking about WrestleMania and some other broad wrestling topics as well. Fan meet and greet at the show. And this is all in Orlando at the Embassy Suites by Hilton on International Drive. It's like a half mile up the road from like WrestleCon. And so it's going to be it's this big thing. And it's been this labor of mine for the last 9 months. And it's been the most exciting thing, but also the most like just draining thing to prepare for this for reasons I won't get into on this show. But it's I really want to. I want this show to succeed because I know that the potential is there, because I know like these channels have such big followings, and it's a lot of different personalities too. We don't all agree on the same stuff, and we all have different techniques, and we all have different presentation styles. So I think, but we all have viable opinions on things. So I thought, a while ago I wanted to do like a live Wrestling with Regret show. Like, how would that even work? And I thought, let's do this super show where we get all these YouTube personalities together under one roof. And that's kind of what the Internet Darlings is. So it's going to be the 8 of us on stage. I've totally overbooked this thing. And then on top of that, we're going to try and get some cameo appearances from other YouTube wrestling personalities as well. I don't know if we're going to get Austin Creed. That's kind of pie in the sky. But we are going to try and get some other notable channels either on stage with us or some pre-taped video presentation. It's going to be a fun show. It's not a wrestling show. It's a show about wrestling. It's just talking about what makes wrestling great and what makes the YouTube fandom great as well. That's kind of what it's all about. So Saturday, April 1st, Internet Darlings Live. If you want more information, for those of you who are watching this who want tickets, go to my Twitter handle at @ZMan Brian Zane. My pinned tweet at the very top is a link for tickets with more information.
There you go, and I'll put a link in the description of this video for you to go too. So there's no excuse, people, no excuse. Now, is this going to be filmed at all, or is it going to be like if you don't show up, you miss it?
Yeah, it will be filmed. It's not going to be live streamed because hotels charge an arm and a leg for Wi-Fi capabilities, and even then, who knows how strong the stream would be. So we are going to record it, and then I'm going to break up the event into a bunch of different videos and spread that out amongst the 7 channels that are represented on the stage. And so it'll be kind of trickled out, and we'll link to each other's channels just for that maximum cross-promotion. That's kind of what it's all about. It's all about just getting more exposure for everyone. That's kind of why I'm doing this, is trying to help out as many channels as I can, essentially.
So go ahead and get your tickets for Super Clash. I mean, Internet Darlings. I'm kidding. If you guys put out a Wrestle Rock Rumble, we're gonna have a little talk. But that's
we're thinking of having that be our finale. Actually, doing our own version of Wrestle Rock Rumble. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's either that or Land of 1,000 Dances.
Oh Jesus! So. Oh Jesus! Well, I'm sure Hogan's not doing anything, so he could probably show up. But,
right.
Brian, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out being on the program. And everybody go check out Wrestling with Regret. And if you're going to be at WrestleMania, get tickets for the show. It's going to be awesome. So thank you very much.
Thank you.